Hey guys, it's Ben here with the Half Court Heave on YouTube. I'm here with not Arjun, not Isaac, but actually our fill-in host for the day. We got Adi here. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
You're here in Atlanta, our Half Court Heave member in Atlanta. Gotta
Sir?
get in recording, but not gonna get too far into the action. But before we get into the action, I just gotta say, go ahead and like and subscribe if you have not already. If this is on your Explore, whatever it is on YouTube, go ahead and click that because you got to get more quality content from us here. But anyways, a lot to talk about. This is the trade deadline special. Got a lot to talk about. Nothing NFL related. Shouldn't say that. If you're an NFL fan, wait until the end. It'll be there. Sure.
Okay.
All right. But yeah, no, the first thing we do want to talk about today is just a plain and simple question for you, and that is who won the trade deadline?
Well, I got a couple winners. So my main winner is gotta be the Nuggets actually. I think the trades that they made, first they got JaVale McGee and then they also got Aaron Gordon. And I think that makes them a championship contender out of the West. Their biggest needs were defensive center and a power forward that can defend and also score. A third option be next to Jamal and Jokic, obviously. And they got both of those things out of Aaron Gordon and then JaVale McGee. So perfect. They're a great match for the Lakers now because they can put Aaron Gordon on AD and then just have the rest of the team go on LeBron. And there's not really anyone else on the team that can really do anything. And they can basically they can hide Jokic in their defense. So I really like what they've done on both sides of the ball by improving their front court like that.
Yeah, I think the Nuggets definitely had a good one. I think they needed some sort of replacement for Jeremy Grant because they couldn't bring him back. Like losing
Exactly.
a power forward like that, and then they had to run really awkward rotations there. So Aaron Gordon was a good replacement, and JaVale McGee was a good pickup. You needed a backup center. Isaiah Hartenstein is not exactly who you want there, but actually, I got an oddball for you. My winner of the trade deadline is the Magic. They didn't get really. They only got a good return for, I feel, Aaron Gordon. I think they got 2 first-round picks and R.J. Hampton. If not, it was just one. Still a win. And I think just generally giving those players away and beginning to be terrible is what they needed to do. They had been delaying that and wanting to be the 8 seed every year for the future, and they had no young core. So now you basically lock up a top 3 pick unless the lottery completely destroys you. And you get rid of guys like even Evan Fournier for 2 second-round picks. You got rid of Evan Fournier. And he's not a bad player. It's that he's too good of a player to be on your team right now. You need to focus on the young guys, get them minutes, and I feel like they got a win in doing that.
I like that answer a lot. I think they got scanned for Vooch. That's the reason why I don't think that they're a winner. I think getting rid of Evan Fournier for those 2 seconds, those 2 seconds are also kind of worthless from the Celtics. They're going to be around the 45, 50 range. Like I don't think that those really move the needle too much. I'd be looking for a first if I was the Magic's GM. And I think for the Vooch trade, I think they got absolutely scammed. I think it was a lose-lose, honestly, for both sides. But I think they got scammed in that trade too. I like the Aaron Gordon return for sure, as you said, but I didn't really like those other 2 trades.
Yeah.
I guess kind of moving into the future and focusing on those young guys is good, but also you don't want to lose value just to tank, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously, I think Wendell Carter and 2 picks is a little understatement for Vucevic's value at this point in his career, but just to get rid of him, and he's a great player, that's why you would have to get rid of him. Just for the reassurance that you would get a high pick and start the rebuild is enough for me. Hopefully they trade Terrence Ross, get another pick out of that, go OKC. But I would say one more winner I'd actually say is the Bulls, and I think this was a little of a move, and we'll talk about that later, but I still think it's a win to prove to Zach LaVine that you care about him and you know he's there. Like, I saw that they wanted to get Lonzo Ball, but apparently he wants to stay, which I will see this offseason. But just proving to Zach LaVine that you are willing to get him all-star pieces, and I trust AK, I trust their front office. I think they'll get defensive players around him, but I think getting Vucevic was a good move just to prove to Zach LaVine that you care about him. But next thing we're actually going to talk about is who had the most disappointing trade deadline, and that goes to you, Adi.
Okay, so I think Boston had an absolutely terrible trade deadline. Like Evan Fournier, as we said, I think They got great value for him, but he doesn't really move the needle into their aspirations. They're not really. They're pretty much trying to contend for a championship, but right now they're at the 8th seed. They really needed. They needed like a. I think, in my opinion, they needed like a center that could actually do stuff. And they didn't get talent at the center position. They actually lost talent when they traded away Tice. I think actually they traded for the wrong player from the Magic. They should have taken Vooch for that price that the Bulls gave to the Magic. I think the Boston should have jumped all over that, and like maybe Romeo Langford and 2 firsts for Vooch. I think that's an easy, basically a done deal in my opinion. I think they should have taken that for sure, taken that and ran with it, and that would have put them back in the championship contending conversation. Because right now they're struggling.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have a different team that's actually my most overrated, but just to like extend on your point, Danny Ainge had been like for like 2 months been hyping up that he needs to make so many moves, and then he got a good bench piece, and they needed bench scoring in Evan Fournier, but then they got him, and they only spent 2 seconds. They could have, with the other pieces on their team, easily gotten Aaron Gordon or Nikola Vucevic, or really even JaVale McGee. Just get something. And then they traded Daniel Tice for Mo Wagner, which made no sense to me at all. I know Daniel Tice is undersized, but he's definitely better than Mo Wagner. His brother airballed that shot to go Final Four, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
But then my team is actually the Toronto Raptors. They were hyping up with the trades they were making to really deal Lowry, and I think that would have been a win instead of letting him walk this offseason. But not only did they not trade him, but they traded like good pieces and decent pieces for second-round picks to trade Lowry, and then didn't trade him. Like they traded Terrence Davis for a second to Sacramento, and he's no diamond in the rough, but he could still be something for you. You traded him for a second-round pick. And Matt Thomas, again, he's a shooter, not really anything else, but you traded him for a second to the Jazz. Those guys could have been contributors for the rest of the season to try to make the play-in tournament. I don't know if they're tanking or not, but I think the Gary Trent move was good for their future. He's basically just a younger Norman Powell, and hopefully they get something for Lowry when he walks this offseason. But that's definitely my...
Yeah, I want to jump on that because the Raptors are in a really weird position because they just won a championship 3 years ago, and they have that same young core of like Siakam and Fleet, and they had Powell and a couple other great pieces as well, like OG and stuff. I think they're in a really weird position. I didn't like that Norman Powell trade at all. I think they should have kept that core together and just made some like minor deals, but I think Lowry's going to stay. He's already shown that he's basically a lifer. He wants to be a lifer in Toronto, but I think the money that he's commanding is absolutely not worth it. So they'll probably re-sign him, and they'll probably overpay him as well. And I think that's going to hurt the Raptors in the future for sure.
I'm thinking, and again, you can see I'm not a Raptors fan, but I'm seeing and also hoping that they would do a sign and trade for him. If they bring him back, they really get caught in a really awkward situation where it's like, are we rebuilding? Are we restructuring? Are we just trying to win a championship when we're a 10 seed in the East? And that's a really conflicting situation. And the next thing we want to talk about is what was the most overrated move at the deadline? I'll take this. I would say my most overrated move at the deadline has to be Vucevic to the Bulls. I think absolutely, that's a great all-star addition. I credited them for getting him and proving to Zach LaVine that they know he exists, but Vucevic doesn't solve your problems. And it's not like the Nets situation where they got James Harden and got rid of defense, and it's like, oh, they have no defense, but they have these 3 guys. They have Vucevic, Zach LaVine. They have great scoring, even Lauri Markkanen now coming off the bench. And you traded for Vucevic, who really doesn't solve any of your problems. And he's not a terrible defender, but he's surely not going to solve your defensive problems. They have 2 good defensive players on the team, and they're so valuable to their own team that they made Thad Young untouchable at the deadline because he's one of their 2 good defenders. So I think really if they had gone out there, and I know Tice is a pretty good defender off your bench, but if you had gone out there and got defenders around Vooch, that would not have been an overrated deal. But really, he doesn't elevate them at much at all. I don't think he gets them into the playoffs naturally. Maybe they win a play-in game, but I don't see that move elevating them because they didn't get any defense around them.
Yeah, just building on that, I think they messed up a lot by not trading away Laurie in like a kind of three-way deal for Vooch, because Vooch and Laurie together are a terrible fit, and they can't play together at all. So if they could have gotten some value, he's a restricted free agent at the end of the season. Obviously, doesn't really fit with the Bulls either way. So they need to do a signing trade. I think they should have just got whatever they could for Laurie, and maybe like one of those defensive power forwards that are becoming more and more valuable in this NBA. But they should have gone out and looked for someone like that for Laurie.
Yeah, no, when I heard that the trade was made, I definitely thought Laurie was in there because Wendell Carter is kind of like a dead trade piece, and Laurie would not fit well at all with Nikola Vucevic. And I think, have they won a game together with Vucevic? Are they 0-3? I don't think they've won a game yet. I think,
I have no
of
idea.
course, the most more overrated moves, I think Aaron Gordon to the Nuggets, to me, is kind of overrated. Like, I like what they did there, but people think that elevates them to a championship level when Jeremy Grant didn't even. And Jeremy Grant was better at that state than Aaron Gordon is now. Maybe I think, yeah, Aaron Gordon's 25. He can still develop. He still can improve in parts of his game. But right now, he doesn't elevate them to a championship level. I think they'll be more competitive. But I got the Suns over them. I got not the Jazz, but I got plenty of teams in the West over the Nuggets still.
I mean, didn't they lose to the Lakers in the playoffs last year? Like, if
Yeah,
they
but
beat the Lakers,
that was behind Jamal Murray putting up 30, 35 a game. I'm not betting on that happening again. So you lose
that's
Jeremy
true.
Grant.
Yeah.
You lose a lot of defense, and then Aaron Gordon and JaVale McGee are the replacements, and they're good. They really improve the team from a first or second round exit to maybe they can make a Western Conference Finals run, but I don't think that elevates their ceiling to a finals team. But the next thing we want to talk about is which move was bigger, LA, LaMarcus Aldridge to the Nets, or Drummond to the Lakers? Adi.
I got Aldridge to the Nets is a much bigger deal than Drummond to the Lakers. You know, Drummond has been, he hasn't been playing all that well recently. Kind of got benched on the Cavs. Wasn't playing well before he got benched either. So I think Aldridge, he also got stacked as well in San Antonio. But the thing that the Nets really needed, once they got all of their depth back in the trade deadline, what they really needed was that kind of center to sit behind DeAndre Jordan, because DeAndre isn't all that either. So they really needed like that backup center, and they got it in LaMarcus Aldridge. I think he'll do wonders for them as the season progresses, and they need like a guy, because DeAndre can't play 40 minutes a game. He's basically washed, so they need someone to man that center position, and I think that was a great addition for them.
Before I get into doing a little bit of LaMarcus Aldridge slander, which is new to me, I really haven't talked about much ever on here. I got to give credit to Nick Claxton. The Nets announced they're going to be kind of moving on from DeAndre Jordan in the rotation, and because they like Nick Claxton, what he's been doing, he's been guarding like 1 through 5 as a center. And then LaMarcus Aldridge, of course, the name, it's a great name in the NBA community, but him to the Nets really doesn't do much for me. I think it might, and it's not going to negatively impact them, but the fact that they're going to be starting LaMarcus Aldridge, and what they needed was a defensive center that's better than DeAndre Jordan, and they got probably the worst defending center in the NBA, it really doesn't make much sense to me. It adds to their scoring attack, surely, but how much more do they need to their scoring attack? Like they have their 3 guys. I think they could have gotten Gorgie Zhang. I would have liked Gorgie Zhang a lot more on that team than LaMarcus Aldridge, but clearly they're just stacking names that don't have rings yet and hoping they can get him one. I don't like him starting for that team. I think DeAndre Jordan and Nick Claxton would have done a better job than LA and Nick Claxton. So I think Drummond, as much as I love to hate on Drummond all the time, every time I talk about him, I love hating on him because he's a terrible offensive player. He's certainly a better move because, I mean, when you're in LA, you're out of Detroit and Cleveland winning 20 games a season where you have to put up a ton of shots a game. Maybe Drummond can just learn, hey, I can just be a defense guy. LeBron and AD, they can hold the offense down. And I think that's what of course, he couldn't show that on the court with Wesley Matthews and Alex Caruso the whole game until his toenail fell off. But surely Andre Drummond, with his rebounding and his defense, his offense is terrible, as I've said before. he's surely a bigger impact than LaMarcus Aldridge at this point in their careers. Also, just for the respective teams.
I mean, I gotta agree with you because like that's what happened with Dwight, and that's also what happened with JaVale McGee. You know, their careers got completely revitalized playing next to LeBron.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you calling that a bigger move is the correct take, because you know if LA went to LA, I think the same thing would have happened. You know, just getting that center who's kind of a little bit older, and letting him sit behind LeBron and AD and kind of pick up their scraps. I think LA could have done a better job in that same role than Andre Drummond ever could.
No,
And
actually, I think, well, the reason they got Drummond was they didn't, and the reason the Marcus Gasol move didn't work out is people didn't realize JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard being the lob threats that they were was the biggest part of them being there, is them being at the rim, finishing off missed shots. And that was like their biggest thing there, and also defense. Marcus Gasol didn't bring that. Well, Marcus Aldridge certainly in 2021 especially does not bring much defense or rim finishing to your team. He will bring offense, but I think Andre Drummond does a lot more for the Lakers. As much as he doesn't do much for a team, he brings a lot more than current LaMarcus Aldridge does. And I've seen him this year. He's not doing great. And I'm talking about LaMarcus Aldridge. You can see Drummond can't finish a layup at the rim, but I would rather have his defense and rebounding than whatever LaMarcus Aldridge brings to the table right now. And next things next, again, talking about the Bulls, and that is, does Vucevic to the Bulls make them a playoff team in the East?
I mean, I think I was a little bit higher on the Bulls than a lot of people were at the start of the season, but I don't think. I kind of thought I thought that they were like playoff probable, or at least like that 9 or 10 seed. But I don't think that Vooch moves the needle that much. Maybe like they're competing for like a 6 seed or something. Like having 2 All-Stars is gonna make you competitive in this NBA, but I don't think that they're not competing at all for a championship, and I think they might be competing for a couple games in the first round.
I think they're competing. I think they're competing for a playoff spot at the bottom. So right now they're what? I think they're 4 games under 500. So they're right now the 10 or 11 seed. Maybe they're 8. I can't even remember. Vucevic, they really have to have a significant winning record to even be 500, and then they have to win some more to be above. And right now, there's the 3 teams. Obviously, they're not better than. That's the big 3 at the top of the East. Going down, they're not going to finish higher than the Heat. They're not going to finish higher than the Hornets. They're not going to finish higher than the Hawks. They're not going to finish. I mean, I don't think they're.
Might finish higher than the Knicks, but.
Yeah. No. The Knicks got a hard schedule above them. They just lost to the Timberwolves. That's the team I have them fighting for the 8 seed with. I think they're definitely a play-in team. I think they certified that with the move. That's how much he elevates them. They weren't a play-in lock before. And I think right now they're 9 or 8 seed competing with the Knicks for that last spot, which is miraculous that either of those teams would be competing for that spot in April. But yeah, I think that they definitely don't become a playoff team, like for sure, like a lot of people thought. And like when I first heard the news, I'm like, oh shit, they're going to be the 4 seed or the 5 seed since it's like a 500 record thing to be up there. And I really thought about it. I'm like, oh, Lauri Markkanen and Vucevic with Kobe White's defense, Zach LaVine defense, and they lost Otto Porter too. Like it's not really a significant move that's going to up them all that much. Vucevic is great, but he really doesn't change much in Chicago.
Yeah, I guess the Bulls are going with the Nets strategy without any of the offensive firepower.
Yeah. No. I think it definitely locks them in the play-in. I don't know where the Raptors. I think they go above the Raptors and the Pacers. I think maybe they finish below the Pacers. They still got to step it up. They're going cold at the really wrong time. They're a couple games under 500 now. But the next thing we want to talk about is how much do Aaron Gordon and JaVale McGee elevate the Nets?
I think we already talked about this a lot, but I think that, as I said before, I think that they're like at least a Western Conference Finals contender at the very least. Just the defense that Aaron Gordon provides when he's healthy is like, I guess, like extremely good. You know, I was talking to one Magic fan, and he was saying that healthy Aaron Gordon's an All-NBA defender. So I don't exactly watch the Magic like that, but I mean, I gotta take his word for it, although it is probably a little bit biased. But Aaron Gordon is going to get provide them with that great defense, kind of slide into Jeremy Grant's old role. And JaVale McGee, he can cover up some of Jokic's defensive problems, and Jokic can spread the floor and do all that. So you can honestly play JaVale and Jokic at the same time, and it works out. And I think both of them are amazing moves. I think they stack up against this Lakers extremely well now with all their pieces, starting from the top to bottom, and I think they can. I think they can make a serious run.
Yeah, I think their ceiling, as we discussed before, I think it's probably the Western Conference Finals. I think they could take the Lakers or whoever's there against them to a big fight, but they'll probably finish at the 4 or 5 seed. I see them probably being a second round exit, because if they are that 4 or 5, they'll be facing. Actually, if they're playing the Jazz in the second round, if they finish as the 1 seed, then yeah, I got them in the Western Conference Finals. But the thing is, there's a big chance that they're either playing the Clippers or the Lakers, most likely the Lakers, in the first round, which you don't want to call them a first round exit, but that's kind of what they would be that if they lost to LeBron in the first round, despite who you would be playing. But their ceiling is obviously, I don't think it's the finals. I think there's too many good teams in the West that are better than them, but they definitely had a big deadline, and they really weren't. They were definitely a first round exit before with all the pieces they lost this offseason. But the next thing I want to talk about is the Miami Heat made a big splash, and they were supposed to, on the day, get LaMarcus Aldridge, but they did get Victor Oladipo in the end of the day, gave up scraps. Sorry, Kelly Olynyk, but they gave up nothing to get Victor Oladipo. And my question to you is, does this make the Heat title contenders?
I mean, maybe make some finals contenders. I don't know. The East is pretty uncompetitive at the top, so might make them finals contenders. I don't think it puts them above the top 4 or 5 in the West at all. Depot's also been struggling this season. He hasn't been at his full form. Hasn't really been at his full form since his injury in Indiana. I don't think he. I think he's one of the most overrated players in the league at this point. I don't think that he really adds too much to the Heat that they didn't already have. I honestly think Hero should be starting over Depot just to give the young guy more experience.
You just threw a lot out there. you threw a lot out
there. I know. Wow. But yeah, I think he could be. Depot would fit much better in like a bench scoring role. Like obviously he'd be an excellent bench scoring role, but like a 6th man. Imagine Depot as a 6th man. I think that would be a much better fit, and then throw Hero in the starting lineup. That's where I see him right now. I don't think Depot is gonna kind of raise the Heat that far up.
Whoa. Okay. It was a simple question, but you gave me a lot to work with here. Victor Oladipo, he's surely not the same explosiveness he was before, but he's still putting up 18 to 20 points per game still at this point, right? And I know
he's putting up those numbers on the Rockets. Like I don't know.
He was averaging 20 on the Pacers when they were still like the 4th seed in the East before they fell off when they traded him. He's a great 3-and-D guy. He brings great defense to your team. At least if he's any form of washed, he'll bring you like 15 points a game and great defense at the guard position. I think you could start Hero at point guard like they have all season and just have Dragic and Nunn off the bench, which is interesting and great for them. I don't think it makes them a finals team. I think they could maybe make an appearance, but I mean, it's the Nets we're talking about. I think Bam Adebayo, when it comes to being faced up against Embiid or maybe Giannis again, he gets the worst of it when he plays a big center, because he's a great defensive guy, but he's 6'9". We saw it with AD in the finals. I think they can, with the selection of the 3 teams above them in the East, they could beat the Bucks. They could maybe beat the Sixers. I got the Sixers in 6 or 7 though, and they definitely couldn't beat the Nets right now. But I think they could definitely make a Eastern Conference Finals run for this season at least. But no, Victor Oladipo being the most overrated player in the league, no one talks about Victor Oladipo. That's the thing.
No, wait. Let me talk to you about why I think he'd be better in that bench role. Because right now the Heat they have some really good defensive pieces. They don't really need Victor Oladipo's defense in that starting lineup. I think if he slides into that bench role, like the Heat are already pretty good. You know, they don't need those diminishing returns at the defensive spot. They can throw him into that 6-man role. He can go off 15, 20 points a game maybe and add some defense to the second team. I think it would be a pretty good fit. I don't know. It might be a little bit controversial, but I think it would be a cool fit.
I'm gonna edit this, put this on Instagram. This is too beautiful. No, their backcourt right now. Correct me if I'm wrong. Before Oladipo is Dragic, or no, not Dragic. Hero and Robinson.
Dragic plays second team too, so.
But like, what's defensive about that? Or like Goran Dragic and Tyler Hero, or Kendrick Nunn, Tyler Hero, and
I mean Kendrick Nunn isn't bad, but like Bam plus Jimmy Butler can basically clamp any team besides the Nets.
That's two players that don't guard the guard position. You get Oladipo there at shooting guard. Hero can't really hold his own at the point guard position defensively. You put them together, it's kind of like what I wanted the Hawks to do this offseason with Trae Young and Drew Holiday. They never did. But you get the defense to drown out the other guy's defense, and they're both effective on offense. I don't know why they would ever bring Victor Oladipo off the bench unless he was still recovering from an injury. But oof.
That's true. Yeah. You know, I'm trying to be a little bit controversial on your show. You know, it's my first time.
Thank you for the content. I'll put this in the thumbnail. Don't worry. So my next question to you is: can Rondo make the Clippers the best team in LA?
No.
I know you're a Hawks fan. I think the people will learn you're a Hawks fan when you discuss this. So my question again is: does Rondo make the Clippers the best team in LA?
I mean, you mentioned I was a Hawks fan. You didn't give me a chance to say that the Hawks were one of the big winners of the trade deadline. but all seriousness, no. Like, I think that Rondo, he doesn't move the needle at this point. Like, the reason why the Clippers did that trade is to try and capture some of that, you know, bubble magic, like playoff Rondo. But at this point, I don't think he moves the needle that much. Even if he's motivated, even if he cares, what is he going to do? Put up 10 points a game? Like off his terrible defense? Like, I don't know. I don't really like the move. You know, it might be addition by subtraction because they lose Lou as well, but I don't know. I didn't really like that trade at all. I don't think it moves the needle for the Clippers at all.
That was probably the biggest what the fuck trade of the deadline. Like, it's just a lose-lose. Or not even a lose necessarily.
I don't think it's a lose. It's not really a loss. It's just kind of like a meh.
It's like both teams just like, it's not a loss. It's just like, why? Like, why? Like, the Hawks have like 5 shooting guards already. They all want minutes. And then the Clippers, I guess the Clippers win the side of the deal. And I think it elevates them in the locker room. I think they didn't have a clear leader vocally. Of course, Kawhi can be doing whatever he wants off the court. But like a guy who's like a vocal on-court leader who also can show up in the playoffs. He's yet to show up in the regular season this year. But I think they got a guy who can run the floor in the playoffs, and also a guy who can really get control of the locker room there if there are locker room problems, which I doubt. But yeah, I think it was a good move, I guess, by the Clippers, but it absolutely doesn't make them better than a healthy Lakers team, despite them not making any moves besides Drummond.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a win-win on both sides. There are reasons why it makes sense for both teams. I think for the Clippers, as you said, it gives them that locker room piece. It also gives them a point guard like they've been looking for, kind of at the same quality of Lou Williams at this point. And then for the Hawks, you know, it gives us kind of bench scorer, that dude that can put up 20 points a game if he wants to. Just any game that he wants. And although his defense is a little bit sus, but so is Rondo. And so I think overall that trade was a win for the Hawks, but I think it was also a small win for the Clippers. But to me, it doesn't elevate the Clippers to the level of being better than the Lakers at all.
I think the Hawks just traded Rondo because they realized they wouldn't be able to use playoff Rondo. But the next thing we want to got to throw a little Hawk shade in there. But the next thing I want to talk about is the Gary Trent Norman Powell trade. And my simple question to you is, who won this deal?
I think the Blazers absolutely won that deal. You know, I'm not sure how good Gary Trent is, but Norman Powell, I think he's one of the more underrated players in the league. You know, he's great on offense. He can play some defense. And he's pretty young too. I think he's like 27 or so. So he still has some growing to do. So I think it's a great trade. I'm not super sure like what Gary Trent really adds to the Raptors. Isn't he a shooting guard? Like they already have beat
I
Zeke playing
mean,
there, so
yeah. No, I think Gary Trent, I think it is actually a win for both sides because the Raptors seem to be headed towards not necessarily a rebuild, but a youth movement to their restructure. Because, I mean, Kyle Lowry on the move this offseason, he wants big money from a contender, and then they let go of a lot of, like, Aaron Baines. It's going to walk this offseason, obviously. But I think this is a win for both sides because Gary Trent, I mean, he's having an amazing year, and he was averaging damn near like 25 points when CJ was out. And he's had an amazing year. He's basically, to me, just a younger Norman Powell. So as much as it hurts for Raptors fans to lose their guy who's done so much with him and for him, they basically just got a way younger version of Norman Powell for their future. And I think, and for the Blazers side of things, I mean, you have Dame. You don't want to waste his prime. You want to win a ring now. He's made it obvious he wants to stay there. So Norman Powell's a better win now piece. But Gary Trent will surely, I mean, the Raptors are magicians at developing players. So I think Gary Trent could be better and a decent amount better than Norman Powell with their development system and all they've done for people. But
absolutely. Can we talk a little bit about the Blazers starting five? Oh my God,
what is it now? Because Nurkic is back.
Yeah, they got
wait.
Yeah, they got Rocco, they got Nurkic, Dame, CJ, and then Norman Powell playing the three. I like that. I like that lineup a lot. I don't know what they're gonna do in the West, but I like it a lot.
If they meet the Clippers in the first round, I don't know.
It's gonna be a series.
I'm not gonna say anything. Okay, besides the Lakers, I would not bet on any other team in the West beating them in a playoff series. Is all I'm saying. I mean, the Lakers would obviously take care of business like they did last year, but I mean, they added Rocco for Trevor Ariza, and then they got a lot of pieces. They're getting a lot of pieces back from the bubble who stepped up. I mean, they didn't even have Nurkic last year. They're going to be filthy. I mean, I think Norman Powell's already averaging like 20-something points for him in his couple games there. But the last thing I want to talk about is Lonzo Ball, who is expected to be like the main thing traded at the trade deadline and was not moved. David Griffin says he wants to stay, and a lot of people doubt that. So my question, actually, I'll answer this myself. And this is, should Lonzo stay in New Orleans or walk this summer? I think he should walk. I think, obviously, you could stay in New Orleans. You got great lob threats to throw something up to, like Jackson Hayes, Zion Williamson. You got great guys on the perimeter to pass to. But, I mean, J.J. Redick said it himself, I'll trust that guy to death. I'm a Duke guy. He said their management has no trust. It's a bad place. And, I mean, Van Gundy's a terrible coach. He's done really questionable things this year, and the only thing that panned out was Lonzo at the shooting guard position, and it only worked out because Lonzo magically turned into a 40% three-point shooter. Like, it was terrible at first. He was having the worst year of his career because he was forcing him to play shooting guard and Eric Bledsoe running the floor, which is really, really weird. I think he should walk. I think he should go to New York. I think Emmanuel Quigley, people think he's the point guard, but he's a shooting guard in a point guard's role. I think if you put him at the shooting guard, put Lonzo distributing the ball, he's really high basketball IQ. He'll elevate that team to a whole new level. And then you also look at teams like maybe even the Raptors. I think the Raptors going out and getting him for the Kyle Lowry replacement, put him with Fred VanVleet. That's your youth movement. That could make a playoff run immediately. And I think, who's the other team that wanted to go for Lonzo? Oh, the Bulls. I think if it was like a sign and trade, send Kobe White to New Orleans because obviously he doesn't want to come off the bench. That's an amazing fit because, again, just like I said earlier, getting a great defender with a bad defensive, offensive player in a backcourt is what you need, like Drew Holiday would have been for Trae Young. I'm still upset about that. But you get Lonzo Ball, you pair him up with Zach LaVine, and that's a beautiful both ways backcourt. They cancel out each other's flaws.
Absolutely. I don't know how it would work, but I want to see Lonzo in LA with the Clippers as well. That's one thing that I really want to see, that Lonzo next to like PG and Kawhi. That would be scary.
That team, I don't know how it works offensively.
Defensive and offense, exactly. I don't know how the cap situation would work. I know the Clippers are hard caps right now, but oh my God, it would be so good.
Dump off Luke Kennard for whatever you can get, and that would be a beautiful team.
I mean, Luke Kennard, they just gave him like a 5-year extension. I don't know how
5 years,
And
16 mil. It increases every year. It's strange. I don't know how he got that
yeah,
contract, but I mean, certainly if you could trade him or Marcus Morris to, I guess New Orleans, they like Duke guys. They like just stacking up their guys from North Carolina. Send Luke Kennard there in a sign and trade.
well,
Sign.
that'd be special. That'd be
That
special.
would be a brutal team to play in the West. But that'll actually be it for us today. A little bit of a short episode, but it's a trade deadline special. It's what you do.
Absolutely.
But that'll be it for us today. Thanks for stopping by. Be here future episodes, maybe, if you guys like.
Hey, have me on, man. I've been begging you to let me on the podcast. So this is my first time. I'm trying to come back again.
If you're still watching, go ahead and comment Adi. Just comment his name. It has his Instagram handle above his head. Just comment his name if you want him back on the show, and we'll see you guys later.